Hey, what's up, YouTube? It's Richie from Boston. It is July. It's 2019, and I know I've been hitting you with these a lot lately, but I think that this stuff right here is incredibly important, and it isn't just for the end of times or anything like that. It's for weather warfare. There's a reason that I prep, and I think there's a reason you should too. Look at all the earthquakes and every other wacky thing that's been going on. Look at the storms that they're conjuring up down south. Do you see what I'm saying? Being prepared, having food to feed yourself, your family, and having the ability to have clean water is important. This Patriot Pantry helps me, and it helps you. If it didn't, I wouldn't run it. And that's just a fact. Anybody that's ever met me knows for a fact that I prepare, and I have this stuff in my vehicle, my house, and my office. So you should too. Or don't. But if you do want it, links are in the description. Check this out.
More reports of Navy pilots seeing lots and lots of UFOs. Have you been briefed on that? What do you make of it?
I have. I think it's probably. I want them to think whatever they think. They do say. I mean, I've seen, and I've read, and I've heard, and I did have one very brief meeting on it. But people are saying they're seeing UFOs. Do I believe it? Not particularly.
Do you think you'd know if there were evidence of extraterrestrials?
Well, I think our great pilots would know.
Is something really out there? 3 more U.S. senators received a classified briefing about UFOs at the Pentagon, or in current lingo, unidentified aerial phenomena.
Well, it's a bird, it's a plane, well, no one knows. Unidentified flying objects have been spotted by Navy pilots, and nobody knows where they're coming from. Now, people are wondering if the truth is really out there.
The consequences, if any of this is true, if just one case is true, are so huge that it would be the biggest revelation in the human experience. We would have to rethink everything we think we know about ourselves, our place in the cosmos. And it is scary.
Up front now, the former Pentagon military official who ran the covert government program up until this last November, Luis Elizondo. Luis, thank you so much for your time tonight. I mean, first, tell us what the purpose of the program was and why it was so secretive.
Sure. The purpose of the program, Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, was really designed to do just that. From a national security perspective, identify those things that we see, whether we see them electro-optically, we see them with radar, we see them as eyewitness reports, through a myriad of different ways and avenues that we receive the information, and try to ascertain and determine if that information is a potential threat to national security, in a nutshell.
So what did you find?
Well, we found a lot. I think it's probably been a little bit mischaracterized in some of the social media you see and what people put out, because a lot of times when we don't have a lot of information, we tend to fill in those gaps with what we think is logical. And there's still, by the way, a lot we really don't know. I think what's important is that we have identified some very, very interesting, anomalous type of aircraft. Let's call them aircraft. Things that don't have any obvious flight surfaces, any obvious forms of propulsion, and maneuvering in ways that include extreme maneuverability beyond, I would submit, the healthy G-forces of a human or anything biological, hypersonic velocities, low observability, positive lift, again, seemingly in defying the laws of aerodynamics. So
So do you think, I know, but do you believe, when you get that Navy pilot saying what he said, do you believe, when you get that Navy pilot saying what he said, do you think that was, a UFO? Obviously I don't have any other word to use, or that or something else?
Sure, that's a great question. Keeping in mind, it's not just the pilot's testimony on observation. Sure, when someone comes to you who's in charge of a multi-million-dollar weapon platform, who maintains a top-secret security clearance, who is paid and trusted by this country to go fight wars and to fly over cities with live munitions, millions of dollars invested in their training, I would submit to you it's pretty compelling. But on top of that, it's not just the eyewitness testimony. It is actual electro-optical data and radar returns. It's also people like radar operators and air traffic controllers. So I think the discussion should be maybe a little bit broader than that. I think people are focusing just on 2 videos coming from a set of F-18s when really it's a lot more than that.
So there it is. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, airline pilots, senators, Navy pilots, people with top secret clearance, everyone's coming out of the woodwork all of a sudden to talk about UFOs and aliens, something they wouldn't talk about at the point of a gun before. But now, suddenly, they're all coming out of nowhere. What could this mean? Okay, so before anybody gets all into the music, let me remind you about a person named Dr. Jacques Vallée. This was a very, very highly accredited scientist, and his job was he got sick of the UFOs. He got sick of the talk of the aliens, the UFOs, everything else, and he took it upon himself to go and debunk this whole thing. When he started researching this and looking into this, I've spoken about this before, this is what he came up with.
Despite the fact that mainstream media accounts like to portray those who believe in extraterrestrial life and UFOs as oddballs and fringe figures, many distinguished and highly accomplished individuals have come forward to discuss their belief in these otherworldly activities here on Earth. Of these thousands of credible witnesses, coming from the fields of politics, academia, and the military, perhaps the most distinguished of all is Dr. Jacques Vallée. Former NASA scientist speaks out about the history of UFOs. Dr. Vallée has had a storied and extensive career in the fields of science and engineering. His many achievements include the first computerized mapping of the surface of Mars for NASA and his work at the Stanford Research Institute, SRI, where he was part of a team that developed the technology that would become the foundation for the modern-day Internet. Dr. Vallée has also examined unidentified flying objects and claims of extraterrestrial activity in more depth than almost any other individual on the planet. His first work on this subject was a journal piece entitled, Estimates of Optical Power Output in 6 Cases of Unexplained Aerial Objects with Defined Luminosity Characteristics.
Now, I know that robot voice sucks, and that he's calling Dr. Vallée Dr. Vale, but Dr. Vallée was no joke. He specifically came out and said, these aren't intergalactic, they're interdimensional, and they're twisting humanity into crazy positions or shapes. I'm going to spare you the rest of that, but let me tell you this. I can't help but notice that mainstream is pushing this, that 400,000 people are going to storm Area 51. They can't stop us all. That's not going to happen whatsoever at all. They can absolutely stop you all. And first of all, half of the 400,000 people probably won't be able to get a ride by their mother anyway, so they won't be able to get there. So that's one thing. But the thing is these guys are pushing this and pushing this and pushing this. And this just popped right into my lap this afternoon. Check this out. It's an incredibly well-made video on YouTube called The Nimitz Encounters. And it was just put up a few months ago. And as many of us know, you can have all the subscribers you want. This guy's got 25,000 subscribers, and yet this video's got 2 million views, 2.5 million views in just 3 months. Now, myself, Call for an Uprising, Face Like the Sun, Scariest Movie Ever, we'll be lucky to ever see 50,000 views again because they censor what they don't want people to hear. And yet this is showcasing amazing graphics, recreations, big budgets, and it's also got the actual airmen that were on the Nimitz. They're talking about a UFO encounter when they were on the boat. They're all talking about the time they had to sign a non-disclosure agreement, and yet here they all are disclosing. Now, that's called a tactic. I find it strange that they're all Navy guys, and all the patents that I've shown you are Navy patents. Do you see what I'm saying? Be prepared. Be ready. They're pushing this like we've never seen before, whatsoever at all. Facebook can censor absolutely anything, and so can't YouTube. So anything you talk about, freedom, America, Israel, anything else, they shut that right down. But if you want to have guys that are saying straight up that they were forced to sign non-disclosure agreements about the UFOs, and yet here they are in videos on YouTube showing their faces, telling you what they did for a job, explaining the entire encounter. Non-disclosure. And yet here they are. That should tell you absolutely everything. And let me remind you, no matter what version you look at, no marvel, for Satan himself is transformed into an angel of light. There's nothing new under the sun. And no wonder Satan himself masquerades as an angel of light. Yeah. And no wonder Satan himself masquerades as an angel of light. Do not be fooled. Wrap yourself in the full armor of God. If you don't know what the full armor of God is, pray to God Almighty through Jesus Christ to give you the discernment and wisdom to not be fooled, because this is going to be absolutely spectacular. The alien agenda plays in perfectly with this. The barium, strontium, aluminum, and whatever else it is that they're spraying in the skies, whatever else it is, will make for a phenomenal holographic or beyond show. Project Bluebeam is over with. They can use this as an enormous movie screen in the sky. I've told you this before, but I'll tell you it again, because there's a reason that they are spraying with absolute impunity right now. All the while, mainstream is pushing this. You see what I'm saying? If they didn't want this word out, this word would not be out. Anybody that's following my channel or anybody else that even talks somewhat similar to the subjects I cover, you know that they can effectively shut us all down. But for whatever reason, they're not shutting this down. They're featuring it. They're talking all about it. Do you see what I'm saying? They want this to happen because it helps the agenda. It's in basically every single publication. They're all pushing it. So in case you didn't hear about it on Facebook, because Facebook decided that was something they didn't want to censor, not to worry, ladies and gentlemen. It's all over the mainstream. There's a reason for that. Absolutely and totally everywhere. A joking event. If it's a joke, if it was nothing, why even post it? But it's absolutely everywhere. This is something to keep an eye on. This is something to be prepared for. The patents are out. The propaganda is in full swing everywhere. Do not be fooled. Richie from Boston. I'm out.